It's my favorite. I won't call it the greatest TV show ever. I'll call it my favorite TV show of all time, and that is The Sopranos.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
The Sopranos premiered January 10th of 1999, of course, on HBO.
Hard to believe that it's that old.
It's that old.
It feels relevant, right? Still.
Woke up this morning. One of the best theme songs ever. Kicked off the golden age of television that we're still enjoying. I mean, before The Sopranos, there wasn't sort of a such thing as kind of the really gritty, hard, what you call it, R-rated adult dramatic television.
Sure. Without Sopranos, you definitely don't get things like Breaking Bad
yeah.
or True Detective.
Sure.
Things that are more pulpy and noir or a little bit more gritty and human than what is primarily considered network television nowadays. It really took that cable mentality and that sort of subscription service to kind of be able to put that kind of content on TV.
Which is neat because fundamentally, even though Sopranos has incredible character acting and somebody's getting whacked every now and then, it is kind of at its heart and soul a really well-written soap opera. And that's one of the things I love about it. You're just kind of caught up, here's this guy and you're caught up in his family life and he's trying to deal with the same problems you are, just in a very mobstery way.
Well, it's just as much crime thriller as it is drama. And I think that's what really drew all these sorts of different audiences to it. It was like there were a lot of people out there who didn't necessarily watch that type of mobster gangster movie or who don't like Scarface or Goodfellas. Or The Godfather, who were enraptured by The Sopranos, and it's because of these dramas, because of these characters.
Yeah, and I think it's also because of the context in which it places characters like that. Like I think if you look at something like Goodfellas, which I love, or Casino, or Godfather, what the common thread there is that even the movies themselves, even if they're kind of saying, "Hey, crime isn't the best thing," the main characters are kind of portrayed as rock stars and gods. The movie glamorizes them. The movies glamorize them and look up to them. And James Gandolfini's character in this in this show, he's kind of a broken person, and he's
the whole point of the show. He's in season 1, or if they go, he's in therapy.
He's in therapy. And you watch him sparring in a way as best he feels he can with his therapist. Dr.
Melfi.
Dr. Melfi. Yeah, who's this? You would think in any other movie, and any other piece of media about gangsters, like this would be like she is like an object or a throwaway to him. And in this show, she has
a power
over him. Yeah. And that's so enticing and so interesting to watch.
I think a lot of that works because of the television medium. You talked about how the films tend to glamorize it. I think that trying to watch The Sopranos as a film would become fatiguing very quickly.
Sure.
But because it was designed as incremental programming, you could have this kind of darker, despairing current running through it. There's a malaise to The Sopranos that would be very difficult to have in a film beyond a certain length, but the television medium proved perfect for it. And I think you see that acted out in some of the shows that have drawn inspiration from it.
I had a ritual, which I just look back on so fondly with the show. I mean, it sort of put New Jersey back on the map too, which I'm originally from New Jersey, so it always sort of connected me with.
When was it on the map before?
Kevin Smith. Kevin Smith.
That's true.
Born to Run, Bruce Springsteen, in the mid-70s.
Battle of Trenton.
But yeah, like that was my first apartment in California, in the Bay Area, and on Sunday nights I would make myself a plate of rigatoni with marinara sauce, get some Parmesan cheese on there, and I would sit,
food. I know
in this little one-bedroom apartment, and I would sit at my table and watch this because I always loved watching that show. Always made me hungry. Yeah, when they always go to the, I can't remember the name of the restaurant that they go to now, but they were always in the restaurant eating like delicious Italian food, and so I was like, all right, I'm gonna start eating during the show because I can't take it anymore.
Yeah, one of the handful of shows ever in the history of my family where, at least for the first couple of seasons, that was like I know it's like a weird like family night, but like when I was when I wasn't at college, like when I would be home from college, like. On a Sunday, we'd all get together and we'd sit down and we'd watch together.
Now, the show was so good, I mean, not just commercially, but critically as well. Twice won the Emmy for Outstanding Drama Series, which seems like not enough
Not
times.
enough, right, yeah.
But it was nominated every year it was on.
Yeah.
Wow.
James Gandolfini and Edie Falco, they were nominated 6 times each for Outstanding Actor and Outstanding Actress, respectively, with each of them winning 3 times.
Lorraine Bracco.
Pardon me?
Did Lorraine Bracco ever win?
Not from what I saw, But the other big thing I wanted to get to before we move along is let's talk about the ending to The Sopranos, because that was
divisive. Is that the right word?
Hugely divisive.
Yeah. Polarizing.
At the time it happened. There were reports of a lot of people. Now this was pre-social media. If this had happened in social media time, it would have been trending for days probably. But
there would have been petitions to change it.
That's true too. It would have been Mass Effect 3'd. But there were reports of people calling their cable providers thinking that their service had gone out.
Oh,
because
that's great.
The show just cuts
Famously
to black.
cuts to black, like mid-sentence.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I talk to all sorts of people who fall on both sides of the fence here, right? There are people who love the ending and thinks it's befitting of like what the show meant to them, and other people who thought that it ruined everything. What about, where do you guys fall?
This is a history of awesome. This is a celebration of good things, but I absolutely despise the ending of The Sopranos. I understand why people like it and appreciate that, but it was not what I desired, which was, if not a complete resolution, you can't resolve everything. But I wanted to have the feeling of an ending. I don't like uncertainty in my endings. You know, what was it the Joker said about, if I'm going to have a past, I prefer it be multiple choice. I'm fine with that in the middle of the story, but when I reach the conclusion, I'd like to have some idea of where these people went. I don't want to have a choose your own adventure.
See, for me, I always liked the ending because it sort of connected you with, it sort of gave you an idea of what Tony's life was, where he didn't know, like, any innocent diner door opening could be it for him, because he always had the target on his back being who he was and the position he was. So that's how he spent his whole life, having to sort of look over his shoulder, and I always sort of appreciated that's sort of the impression that we're left with as this show came to a close.
I'm on your side. I think like it fits, although it's not exactly. I'm in one way I'm on Ryan's side, in another I'm on Jared's side. Like Jared, I like resolution in my stories, but like Ryan, I kind of admire the fact that the filmmakers were going to commit to a perspective technique like that, because that's what it said to me, was like, if you were the viewer in his head, like, that's how it could have ended, and that's how it might have ended for him, and he knew that the whole time.
Now, just to finish on this last point, David Chase did give an interview years later and did say, no, Tony did not die after that. So he did answer that long-standing question by saying, no, Tony was not killed there.